Welcome to Behind the Warrior, a podcast presented by the EOD Warrior Foundation. This series will focus on resources, interviews, and topics impacting EOD warriors, their families, and the military community at large.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Warrior podcast. I am your host, Maria Schabla, and today we are very excited to be speaking to active duty Air Force EOD technician Michael Workman. Michael just got back from a trip where he climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. Welcome to the podcast, Michael.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Great. We're glad to have you. And I love your background, Michael. Where are you? What are those robots?
Yes, I'm currently at the 7-level certification course for Air Force EOD techs. We combine it with our prelim course where I actually teach, but I'm up here because the service is a little better and it's a little quieter. So
Nice. Well, that's an awesome background. So Michael, tell us about yourself. Where do you live and do you have a family?
Yes. So I currently live in Wichita Falls, Texas. So it's like North Texas area. And that is because I picked up the teaching position here so that we could do the pipeline portion for Air Force EOD students. And my wife actually highly encouraged it to kind of keep me at home a little bit more so that I could be there with my daughter, who is 6 years old, and my son, who is 4.
Aw, awesome. Well, that is very cool. So Michael, what inspired you to join the Air Force and how did you get into EOD?
Join the Air Force, it's the cliche answer, but I wanted to serve my country at some point. And I never really thought I'd have the time to do it, but life kind of lined up where I had an open window. So I decided to enlist, and EOD kind of just fell in my lap, but I couldn't be more grateful that it did. I originally wanted to be an air traffic controller, but I guess something with my eyes, depth perception or whatever. So the recruiter was like, well, here are your other options. What do you want to do? And I said, I just want to serve 4 years and I want to deploy. And so he's like, all right, EOD is your best bet. And here I am.
Wow. Okay. So did you have an idea of what you were getting into?
Of course not. No. I mean, I saw the cool videos of IEDs. I didn't realize that that's just one of the many, many mission sets. And so, yeah, you never really know what you're getting into.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, so I did a little bit of research before this interview on Mount Kilimanjaro. So I found out it's the highest mountain in Africa, the tallest freestanding mountain in the world. It's a dormant volcano. I also read that only about 65% of climbers actually reach the summit. So my question for you is, have you always wanted to climb this mountain, and what was the catalyst for this trip?
No, I actually had no intentions of climbing. And my buddy, who recently graduated med school, I guess it was on his bucket list. And so he reached out to a bunch of us and said, hey, this is something I'm doing and I want you guys to come. And it just kind of seemed like a once in a lifetime opportunity. So everybody else that went kind of is more into that climbing. And I was very much a novice on this one. So,
well, that is awesome. So you took a risk.
Yes.
Yeah. So once you made the decision, was it hard to make the decision, or you just jumped on it? You were like all in.
Yeah, it was like 9 months advance notice. And so I was like, yes, I plan on doing this. He had already done a lot of the footwork, found the company that he wanted to work with, XYZ. So I put my deposit down and then tried to get the leave approved and tried to do all the stuff that the Air Force requires you to go to a different country. And but when he mentioned it, I'm like, yeah, I have to do this. So
wow. Okay, so once you knew you were in, what were the logistics like? Like, did you start training for the climb?
Right. Again, I was very fortunate in that I went with a good group of people, and if anyone wants to ever do it, I recommend going with friends because you're going to have a lot of time on the mountain. And fortunately, they put a lot of it together. So I kind of just jumped in, but I had one buddy who he subscribed to like Pomelo, which is they find you good ticket deals and stuff. So when the good deal came up, he booked our tickets. And then, like I said, my buddy who graduated med school, he had already found the company. And so logistically, I was a lot of just like showing up and got to be a part of it.
Well, that's awesome. So tell us again, what was that travel company that your friend used?
Pomelo, I believe it's a subscription. You pay like, he pays like $30 a year, and then they send him good deals. So tickets can generally be, in the 2000,
Mm-hmm.
3000s ish, but we got ours for 1300 a piece.
Wow, that's a great deal.
Yeah.
I'll have to write that down. We'll
Yes.
have to include that in the link. Pomelo. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, do you know what travel company they used?
Yes. So we went with a company called Climbing Kilimanjaro.
Mm-hmm.
And once I was on the mountain, it was clear to see that this has become a very big touristy thing to do. And so
Mm-hmm.
these companies were very much copy and paste.
Mm-hmm.
You will, if you do shop around, you'll see the sites explain, they're pretty explicit about what they actually provide and what they don't provide. But for the most part, you look at every single company up there is basically doing the same thing. That being said, I thoroughly enjoyed the people that we worked with and the porters that we went up the mountain with. Because, yeah, my group, there was 6,
Uh-huh.
and they like to make groups of 10. So there were, that 4 additional people that we didn't know at first,
Mm-hmm.
which was actually kind of nice to have people you didn't know, get to know them. But just with us 10 going up, we had, I think, like 34 additional people to help carry stuff. And yeah, so there's a lot.
Wow.
You take a small army up there.
Wow, that is an operation right there.
Mhm.
So now, as far as the difficulty level, did you start training when you found out that you were going?
Not right away. Like I said, I had about 9-month notice.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, being here with the preliminary students for the Air Force, we already do a lot of PT with
Yeah.
them. We work out with them a lot. We run with them a lot. We ruck with them a lot. And so I really didn't start training until maybe 2 months beforehand. And even then, I just started doing the Stairmaster. So I was climbing I know I did the height of the Empire State Building was kind of my standard. So if I
Mm-hmm.
was jumping on it, I did that maybe 8, 9 times before going. And I'm glad I did. I
Mm-hmm.
definitely didn't feel soreness in my legs like some people complained about.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, really didn't need to do a lot of preparation.
Wow. Oh, wow. That's so neat.
Yeah.
So now I did see too, there are 7 different routes. Which route did you go? And I guess that decision maybe wasn't yours. Maybe your friend decided.
Yeah. And once he said, hey, I think we should do the Lemosho route, which
Mm-hmm.
is, it is a 7, 8, or 9-day route, depending on how well you're adjusting to the altitude and how physically fit you are.
Mm-hmm.
But we made it the 7-day one, and I'm glad we went with that just because it's one of the few routes that goes through all of the different climates
Oh,
and goes through
wow.
all of the different. So yeah, you start in the rainforest, then you're on like plateau, you go to desert, and then you eventually end up at the glaciers on top. So
Oh my goodness. I cannot even imagine that. Okay, so I also read that due to high altitudes, there are some serious medical conditions that can develop. There was AMS, which was acute motion sickness, HACE, which was high altitude cerebral edema, and then HAPE, which was high altitude pulmonary edema. So that sounds pretty scary. Did any of you guys experience that, or did you see any of that?
surprisingly, my group of friends, us 6, which I don't think any of us are any pro athletes in any domain or anything like that. We did go up with 2 people that were really into CrossFit, and
Mm-hmm.
they were very physically fit, you could tell. And they were actually the ones that suffered the most from altitude sickness. So I wouldn't have
Wow.
thought that the 6 of us were all going to handle it so well. But
Uh-huh.
um, yeah, I took some altitude medication that my doctor prescribed me before I went, and I don't know how much that played into it, but I know they were taking some as well. So you really don't know how you're going to handle the altitude sickness, but nothing severe or
Mm-hmm.
crazy happened with the 10 of us. I know I did see when we were at base camp, which is right before you go to the summit,
Mm-hmm.
they the helicopter came in maybe like 3 or 4 times to evacuate people.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, you're camping at around 18,000, 17,000
Mm-hmm.
feet, and just some people, their bodies were not about it. So
Oh, wow. That is wild. I didn't know there was medicine for high altitude.
yes, yeah, and I think it was very helpful. So I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah, that's good to know. Okay. Um, so yeah, and I guess we are circled around that, the different climates. I guess you just have to bring a lot of layers.
Yes, that is a huge recommendation that I would have is modular clothing,
Uh-huh.
because you would go from very hot to rainy to cold to windy to hot again. And so having just very good modular clothing layers that you can keep in your pack.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
and what was the lodging like? Lodging and
Um,
meals.
yeah, it was, I would recommend if anyone is going to do it to kind of go a couple days early and give
Hmm.
themselves a couple days on the back end as well. We actually booked a safari with the trip.
Oh,
So
how fun.
we spent the first 2 days. Well, there was arrival day and then 2 days of safari. So we had about 3 days to acclimate. And that lodging was in a hotel that was very nice. I mean,
Hmm.
it was a very nice hotel. And once we actually started climbing, you were just in a tent. And yeah, you were in a tent the whole way up. So
Wow. And what kind of food were you eating?
they had a little portable cafeteria that they'd bring up, which again is just like a bigger tent.
Hmm.
And we got really close with our chef. And so he actually at one point
Of
did
course you
a
did.
more of yeah, it was really fun. On that note, we talking to our guide, he said that a lot of people kind of aren't very friendly, right? They're so
Mm,
focused on this hike and
yeah.
they're not, I don't know. He just said they don't always have the best experience with customers, but we fully embraced, all of our porters. We got to know everyone really well. We, as simple as just trying to learn simple phrases in Swahili
Hmm.
to like show them that we're interested went so far, and they went above and beyond for us. They, like I said, they cooked us a local meal of ugali, which is um, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a doughy mixture that you dip into sauce. But for the most part, we ate soups, egg, hot dogs, really simple
Uh-huh.
proteins and carbs.
Nice. Oh, that's so cool. I love to hear that. Um, so, on that note, can you tell us more about the Tanzania culture and what the people were like, and the food and the art? And
Yeah, again, the people were very friendly when you made an effort
Mhm.
to just get to know them a little bit. The group that I went with, most of us had actually lived in West Africa for 2 years
Mhm.
before this, where we did like a religious mission there, and so we were somewhat used to the culture. I mean, obviously, it's West Africa versus East Africa. It's a little different. There wasn't as much shock getting in country, um, and the people, we just embraced them and they embraced us almost
Mhm.
immediately. I remember the first night we went out to a little bar that was across from the hotel, and a guy came and sat with us. And then from there, I mean, we just hit it off. He started teaching us a little bit of Swahili. We used that to talk to other people who then wanted to be our taxi drivers and were coming out and hanging out with us. And so, yeah, the people were great, very friendly. I love African culture, what it transcends all the different countries there. I love it. And so I was very happy to be back. It had been about 8 years since I'd been back there.
So, what were you doing in Africa before?
Um, of the six of us, four of us had done a like religious mission in West Africa. So we did humanitarian stuff. We, you know, preached religion, all that jazz. And it was 2 years there. So we were very, like I said, got very accustomed to some of the things that transcend African countries, that culture wise.
Wow, you lived in Africa for 2 years.
Yeah, I was a missionary for the Mormon church.
That is unbelievable. Oh my goodness. So, what do you mean, like, when you say Africa transcends? I don't really understand that.
Right. I mean, it's like if you go to Iraq versus Afghanistan versus Kuwait, like the Middle East kind of has culture similarities amongst
Hmm.
all the Middle East, but each country is going to have its own culture, you know
Yeah.
what I mean, of its own. So just what I found that transcended and I experienced in both West and East Africa was this willingness to help and to get to know you, and this friendliness that people are so open and they want to know you and they want to listen to your story. And yeah, it was great. It was very welcoming.
That is unbelievable because, like, I think most people, when they hear about like climbing a mountain in Africa, it's probably like scary. Like, you would think like, oh, maybe there's a lot of violence or war or crime, or it's so nice and refreshing to hear you just say like basically the total opposite. Like people are loving and kind, and I'd imagine that.
I think it really, I mean, it depends on where you go. There's obviously violence and there are civil wars going on, but not where I was at in Benin, not in Togo, and definitely not in Tanzania. Tanzania was a lot more developed than where we were. And so like I was really surprised by the hotel, super nice hotel. And and the US dollar goes a long way there. So we were doing room service, everything when we were there, especially when we came back from the hike, we're getting milkshakes and XYZ. And the bill was like $100 for both me and my buddy. I mean, yeah, it was really cool.
Wow. What a trip. So I know you have some photographs that you were going to share with us. Dive into that.
Let's try and do that right now. So we were talking, this was the summit where I was able to hold up the EOD Warrior Foundation flag and an EOD flag.
That is awesome. And I want to jump in here because I don't know if anybody will remember, but in my interview with Tim Medvets, we actually gave you a shout out because I just found out that morning that you were climbing the mountain.
Right.
So it's so neat to like circle back around and now have you and get to hear about your journey. So cool. And thank you so much for bringing our flag.
Oh, of course. It was I'm very glad that I decided to do that. Just because when I was hiking, I said, this is such a big thing. I want it to actually mean a little bit more. I want to add to it. And so having more of a purpose behind the climb, it made it a lot more memorable.
That is awesome.
But here's where we started on our safari. I would 100% recommend, if you are going to go to the Ngorongoro crater. It is apparently the cradle of civilization. And it was like the Lion King. You go down into this massive crater. It's like 3 or 4 miles wide. And the animals are you have lions hanging out with water buffalo and hanging out with hippos and zebras. They're all just in there together. It was absolutely incredible.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Wait, is that you with all the children?
Yes.
Oh, how sweet.
We went into a little village on our way up. And that's what I'm saying. The driver was like, hey, what do you guys want to do? And we're like, yeah, we want to experience a little bit more of like the locals and stuff like that. And he's like, all right, I'll take you to this village. And just very accommodating, very cool people.
Wait, go up. Did we go past the bird attacking you? Because I'd really love to see that one.
Oh, no. Let's see if I can get it to actually play. Maybe not, but in the short little clip here.
Oh yeah. So tell us what's going on there.
So in the crater, there's a spot where everybody goes for lunch, and we were warned about the birds, that they are on the lookout for tourists. And it doesn't show the full video, but yeah, these birds eventually just came down and started attacking my head because I had a piece of chicken. Yeah, it was.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
It was fun. This is where we ate. This was the cafeteria.
Nice.
So every day they would pop up this tent. And like I said, that's why you have so many people to support your hike, because they're cooking meals, they're putting up tents, they're carrying the majority of your baggage. You only have your day pack. As you can see here, I have my day pack, and that's mainly just for, if you need your jacket, or if you need your rain gear,
EOD.
Things like that.
That's awesome. You were representing. Oh my goodness.
So yeah, these are, as you can see, the mountain's really far away, and it was cool to just get closer and closer. The beauty about this, so that's Kilimanjaro, and the beauty about the 7-day route is there are shorter routes. The shortest is 5 days, and You can do shorter, but I guess you have to get very special permission from the country. Like I said, this is very touristy. A lot of people do it because it is the easiest, I think, of the 7 summits around the world, the 7 highest peaks in each continent. Yeah. And so a lot of people attempt it. I think that also accounts for the high failure rate, because I think some people underestimate it. If you're physically fit, I don't think you'll have any problems. But the 7-day route wasn't necessary. You could probably do this thing in maybe 2-3 days if you go to the right spot and start hiking. But with the 7 days, you get to see a lot more, and get to get closer and closer and closer.
So was there any point in the hike that you just were scared, or it was like intimidating?
No, it's, one chunk at a time.
Oh, is that snow?
It was rain.
Oh, how nice. Everybody's just hanging out in the rain.
Yeah. And that was one of our lead guides talking to us. This was the same like within the same hour.
Wow.
They really make an effort to connect with you. And like you said, not everybody's about that, but they did a little song and dance for us at this point, and me and my buddies all jumped in, and we were picking up our porters and throwing them in the air. I mean, we made the most of it. And one of the head guys was like, "This is by far my favorite group that we've ever brought up the mountain."
Oh, wow.
Here is Barranco Wall. This was probably my favorite part.
Wow.
Because the wall that you're seeing here, it looks completely flat from here, but there's actually people on that mountain right now doing zigzag paths up the side of it.
Oh, wow.
Kilimanjaro didn't require any technical climbing skills. So you literally just kind of had to scale up the side, but you didn't need to bring carabiners or do any of that. But that was my favorite. And that was us getting closer and closer to the summit up there. This is what the top of Barranco Wall looked like.
Wow.
We're finally above the skyline. And this was base camp. Kind of just hanging out, waiting for the night. That's it up there. It doesn't look like it's too far away, but boy, oh boy, at like 17,000 feet of elevation, and you're going like 3 miles in, like a ton of elevation in like 2 or 3 miles. So that summit night was pretty brutal. This was us at 1 a.m. getting ready to go up.
At 1 a.m? Why? Early / late?
It's so that you can get up there for this.
Wow.
Yeah, they want, ideally you summit as the sun is coming up, and it's almost like being on another planet. It was surreal. It felt like you were on Mars because there's nothing up there.
Oh my gosh.
So this was almost the end. That was the other thing. There's a false summit because you get up to Stella Point here, and there's still like another mile you have to go up, and you're like, all right, but it's not as inclined, so it wasn't bad. But yeah, this is it, and this is when we actually made it to the very end, the Uru Peak, or however that's said.
Uru Peak. Oh wow. Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
I took the opportunity to do memorial push-ups for the fallen, and again, it was just, it made it a lot more memorable, a lot more meaningful. So.
Wow, Michael, what a trip. I guess my question would be, how did you feel when you finally got to the top? What does that feel like? Was it emotional? Was it just?
I felt grateful because up to that point, like I said, it really wasn't hard. You were doing maybe 4, the most I think we did was 8 miles in a day, 9 miles. And so you take 6 days or 5 days to get up to that point, and they are all pretty easy. You're just acclimating to the altitude. And so summit night was actually a bit challenging. Like you really had to decide, okay, do I want to do this? And so once I got to the top, I felt just grateful that it was hard, so that I could feel like I kind of actually earned the
Oh,
scenery.
wow. Interesting.
Yeah,
Did
and
some
it
people were just like, no, I'm not going to do it?
yeah, you when I was coming up and down, there were certain people that had their guides taking them down
Mm-hmm.
because they just, again, I feel there's this weird balance. I do feel like some people underestimate it.
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side, if you are active duty military and you're actively working out and want to take a month or two to run and climb some stairmasters beforehand, you shouldn't have any problems. You don't know how your body's going to handle the altitude sickness, but really not that difficult of an adventure. And it was
Mm-hmm.
just great to be up there with childhood friends I hadn't seen for years, and we just had this week-long adventure together.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, again, thank you so much for bringing awareness and honoring the fallen. That really is beautiful and very meaningful to all of us. So thank you. Yeah, and so I guess I would end it with, if somebody's listening and they've never done the trip and are interested, what words of advice would you give them?
I mean, to make it simple, go with Climbing Kilimanjaro. It was a great company.
That's good.
Um, they were excellent. They claim to have like a 98% success rate for summiting, or like
May-
in the 90s.
Maybe they should tell them that they know you.
Yeah, exactly. Tell them they know Mzungu Kicha. That was one of the Swahili phrases. It means crazy white guy. They loved that. Every time we called ourselves crazy white guys, they loved it. So
Say it
just tell them
again.
Mzungu Kicha.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
Mzungu Kicha. It just means crazy white dude. So you tell them that Mzungu Kicha sent you, they'll know who you're talking about. What other recommendations? I would say, yeah, go with Climbing Kilimanjaro.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe do the Stairmaster a little bit. Bring a duffel. I actually brought one of my 3-day packs because I thought it would be easier for the porter,
Mm-hmm.
but they just take all your stuff and put it on their head anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So the porters are incredible people. The fact that they do twice as much weight as you're doing, and then they carry it on their head all the way up, is just amazing.
It is.
Plan on spending total between $6,000 and $7,000 if you're going to do a safari, because like that added like $1,200 to it.
Mm-hmm.
Bring snacks. I wish I had brought more just American snacks and like gel packs, things like that would have been nice to have. What else? I don't know. Go with friends.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely go with a group of people you want to hang out with for a while.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Michael. This was just such a fun interview and so interesting to learn about the culture and all of that. So thank you so much for spending some time with us and sharing your experience and giving us this great advice. And we wish you the very best in your career as well. So we're going to end this interview as we do, and as our tradition, with some questions about your favorite things. So our first question is, what is your favorite outdoor activity?
Pretty basic. It's driving around with my wife and kids. We love to do little day trips. So when we were in Jersey, there's lots of small towns. Now we're out here in Wichita Falls, kind of a similar thing. So we love driving and just being outside in new explored areas.
Aw. And what are their names so you can give a shout out?
Yeah, so Emery is my 6-year-old, and she is a Spitfire, love her to death. And Oliver is my sensitive, loving 4-year-old boy.
Aw, Emery and Oliver. Hello. And then what's your wife's name?
Ashley.
Ashley. Awesome.
Yes.
Well, shout out to Ashley. Okay, cool.
Yes, she's the rock that held the house down and allowed me to go disappear for 2-3 weeks.
God
Africa,
bless
so.
her.
Yes.
I hope you did something very nice for her when you got home.
Well, I missed Valentine's Day because I
wow.
was on the mountain. So I sent her like a 6-foot-tall bear. So that kept her, company while I was gone.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I'm sure the children loved that as well.
Yeah, they did.
Oh gosh, that's funny. Okay, so what is your favorite city?
Favorite city would have to be probably just because it's recent in my head. I recently got back from Lyon, France.
Wow.
And that was a really great time. Great food. It's the gastronomy center of the world or whatever. I didn't even know that was a word, but I guess that's the study and art of food. And boy, oh boy, they've nailed it. Food was really good. So Lyon, France. It'll change tomorrow, but that's what it is right now.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Well, that leads us into, what is your favorite food?
Well, favorite food. I can't get enough of street tacos, though. I'll take street tacos any day. Love them.
Street tacos. So that is not like a certain type of taco, or is there like, what is a
It's
street taco?
like here they have little taco trucks all over the place. That's why I loved New Jersey, but I'm more than happy to be here in Texas now because they've got great Mexican food. They got taco trucks and they just serve you those little tacos.
Nice.
It's not like Taco Bell tacos. We're talking authentic.
Well, thank God.
Yeah.
Okay, and our last question is, what is your favorite meme?
Favorite meme. So you did ask me to look over these questions. So this one I looked up, and it's the one of Taylor Starling where she's like all beat up after a bare knuckle fight.
Ooh.
And the caption is NAV school students after graduating, EOD school or whatever. And she's just all beat up and bloody. And she's like, it was tough. It was fun. Different ball game, but I had a great time. So that's what I imagine I put my students through here and what they experience when they graduate NAV school. So.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Well, you're going to have to send that to me, so I'll post it with this interview.
Definitely. We'll do.
All right. Awesome. Michael, it was so great talking with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You have a good one.
You too.
Thank you for listening to our Behind the Warrior podcast, brought to you by the EOD Warrior Foundation. The EOD Warrior Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization serving the EOD community by providing financial assistance, scholarships, and providing hope and wellness resources for the active duty, reserve, National Guard, retired and veteran EOD communities and their families. We also honor our fallen and wounded EOD technicians by maintaining the EOD Memorial and Remembrance Garden. We do all this through the generosity of individual and corporate donors and sponsors. If you would like to assist the foundation or support our Behind the Warrior podcast, click the link on our webpage at eodwarriorfoundation.org or contact us at info@eodwarriorfoundation.org. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to tell a friend. The various opinions, beliefs, and viewpoints expressed by guests, contributors, and participants of the Behind the Warrior podcast are their own and are intended for informational purposes only. They do not necessarily reflect the opinions, beliefs, viewpoints, or policies of the EOD Warrior Foundation or its employees and volunteers.